folks, welcome back to Recently Seen Reading. I'm Heather, and I thought I'd do a quick video about my nonfiction November reading. Now this is my primary nonfiction November reading material. I probably won't finish it all, but I'm going to dip into it. Let me explain. So nonfiction November, as anyone watching this video probably already knows, was developed by Olive, of a book Olive, and it involves having 4 words that can be interpreted in multiple different ways to prompt nonfiction reading, but the primary goal of it is for folks to read more nonfiction than they normally would. So in an average or normal month for me, I read about 30% nonfiction books. Some of those would be related to my professional life, but most of them are related to pleasure reading. So the prompts for this year's nonfiction November are sport, design, voice, and true. And I've taken perhaps a slightly mischievous approach to this because I'm going to tackle as my primary read for nonfiction November Scott's Last Expedition, his journals. Now I've read this before. I am an Antarctica buff. I tend to read lots of fiction and accounts of the South Pole exploration. It's been a while though since I've reread Scott. So I'm going to tackle that again this month, and it fits sport because Antarctic exploration was treated as a sport, and Scott and Shackleton got into it because Scott didn't believe that Shackleton had been sporting in the way he conducted his expedition. And let's not talk about what Scott thought of Amundsen. It also fits design. Part of the reason why Scott's expedition failed in large measure was that it was poorly designed. Scott was opposed to the use of skis and assumed and believed more or less wholeheartedly that the solution were gas-powered vehicles and horses, and not skis, to get you from the coast of Antarctica to the South Pole. So there was a big design flaw in the expedition. The next 2 prompts are voice and true, and these journals are quite clearly in Scott's voice. They're written contemporaneously. You can take the journals and match them up to the reproductions of his handwritten holograph journals. I have one of those somewhere. Maybe I'll show folks that later. But they may or may not be entirely true. There was an editorial hand behind this. His wife, Kathleen Bruce Scott, a sculptor, and James Barry were among the people who were involved in editing Scott's accounts. So I think this one will fulfill all 4 prompts: sport, design, true, and voice. So whether or not I get through all of it, that'll be the primary challenge for me because we're about halfway through the month now. But it's been a long time since I read this one, and I really enjoy reading about polar exploration, so I think that will be fun for me. The other things that are on my reading list for, let me just move some of this, for November that would fit under nonfiction. I've got a couple of memoirs. I've got Alive, Alive-O by Diana Athill that I want to read. Diana Athill died last year at 100, or earlier this year. She made it to 100. And I've always really liked her writing, especially her writing as an older woman. We tend, when we read front list, not to read a lot of things written by older people. And that's one of the things that always attracts me to Athill. Besides her voice, she has a really compelling voice and a long perspective, since she's quite an old woman when she's writing some of these. The other memoir I'm going to tackle is called I need the glasses on for this one, How We Fight for Our Lives by Saeed Jones, another memoir, and it's on the opposite end of the spectrum. He's a very young man. I haven't started this one yet, but I'm looking forward to that. What else? I've got 2 books about Belsen. After Daybreak and Distance from the Belsen Heap. Partly I'm reading them because this is the month in which I read stuff about the Second World War. I mean, we've just passed Remembrance Day here in Canada. Lots of controversy this year around some peripheral stuff that's going on. But I'm reading about Belsen because I have a family connection to Belsen that I don't quite understand. And I thought I'd read some of these things after daybreak and distance from the Belsen heap to get an understanding about the Canadian troops who are at Belsen. It will be the bulk of my nonfiction November reading, the quartet of keywords covered in one Antarctic exploration account. A couple of memoirs by Atthill and Jones, a couple of historical accounts of the liberation of Belsen, and whatever other library history related materials that bubble up on my to-do list. So that's it. I hope you're having a fabulous reading month, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.